Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on the desk. It's quite an interesting day it's being today, which also means that the program is loaded. I'm Uyag Mofwegbe, as always. It's a delight to have you join us here on the program. Of course, as expected, all of the reactions coming from the election conducted in Edo State over this past weekend is still one of the biggest conversations in this country right now. The fallouts from that election, the outcome of the process itself put together has formed the crux of conversations across Nigeria today. All of these we'll be talking about and so much more in the course of the program. Do stay with us, everyone.
Is the desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
that this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is
All right, let's get talking, everyone. I'll be joined by two guests in the course of today's edition of the desk. But again, first is a gentleman joining us live in the studio, and the second guest will be latching onto the show tonight via Zoom from Ekpoma, that's somewhere in Edo State. James Ezema is a public affairs analyst. Thank you, James, for coming on the program. Short notice, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, we appreciate that. I mean, you are not a newcomer to election observation. I mean, beyond the Edo State election that was conducted this last weekend. But regarding this particular electoral exercise, as a civil society person, what has been your thoughts?
Well, reports that have come from the elections showed that most of the civil society observers who were on ground at the Edo State governorship election that was just concluded and announced, it shows that there are kind of discrepancies between what actually was the outcome of the result, the election, in terms of at the polling units,
Right.
and what eventually was announced by the INEC. But you know, any discussion on a Edo election as it is now is just an academic exercise because a winner has been announced. So, but if you look at it, looking at future elections, you will discover that what will now be playing out is that people now know that if you can't rig it at the polling unit, you rig it at the collation center, and if that be the case, we will most likely be experiencing increase in electoral violence because some people will want to make sure that they are not rigged out at the collation level. Yeah, so that would be one of the things that some of the election, election rigging is not only about the ruling party. Every every election you will find that most of the time people will talk about rigging. It depends on which side of the divide that you are, and in terms of partisanship. But if you are somebody that is an observer,
Right.
that is a non-biased observer, and you look at Nigerian elections in fact, from 2023 till now, we have seen that things are not the way it's supposed to be at all.
That's interesting. Some people say, for whatever it's worth, one of the things that are taken away from this election in Edo State is the fact that there was minimal violence, if any. Others say, well, maybe the incidences of violences were either not reported at all or they were underreported. Where do you stand?
I think it was not underreporting. It's actually a case of people trying to, have hope, and they believed INEC was going to do their job. And when people know that, look, whatever will that we as electorates, would decide at the polling unit is what is going to be announced. You discover that people will not resort to violence, because people, I don't think Nigerians are that so desperate that voters will continue to be fighting about elections. And also, the high level of enlightenment and education that have gone in since all this while, especially when it comes to this electioneering issues and violence. You discover that people are getting more and more aware. It's like, why should I die for them? That kind of mentality is what people are having these days. Because most times when people are injured, when people are, traumatized, and they are left to nurse their wounds at the end of the elections, and the victor will go home smiling while the person will be groaning somewhere in pains after the election, if the person survived it. So most electoral violence, young people are now beginning to learn that, look, you cannot continue to fight and kill yourself or kill the other person for any of these people. So that's why the process, they have advanced in their operation, especially that is the politicians. So that's why you see, like in local government elections that are holding everywhere, you will see that the ruling party will just sweep the whole election, and all the results will go to them because they are in the ruling party. So it is not very healthy for our democracy at all. We cannot. Our democracy cannot survive like this.
All right. Let's talk about survival for a second. Opposition has been reacting in those states as well. We'll talk about opposition as well in the course of this conversation. But let's stay with the vote buying issue. It appears it is just one layer after another layer after another layer. Just when you thought in 2015 you were already beginning to understand how vote buying, or what they call financial inducements with regards to election works, it changed by 2019. Between 2015 and 2019, there was also, you also had a series of all-cycle elections, Edo State, Ondo, and so on and so forth. We saw evolution. By 2023, there was another phase of vote buying again. Exactly. Now, this is just an all-cycle election in Edo, and they are saying there was a bit of, if you like, forensic approach to vote buying.
Yeah.
We understand, yes, that the EFCC and other law enforcement agents are taking some persons into custody in relation to vote buying. Does it look like a phenomenon that's going away anytime soon?
I don't look at it as something that will go away very soon, because the mentality of an average politician is about, let me win and let them go to court.
By all means.
Yes. Let me just win, let them go to court. Because the court itself has constituted itself as just a mere marketplace where anybody will just go there and bargain for a particular product of interest, and he pays and goes home.
But people have the right to go to court to seek redress if they find a need to.
Exactly. That is what the court's supposed to do. The court is supposed to be an unbiased arbiter, who should decide between the right and wrong based on facts. And you'll discover that at the end of the day, no matter the facts you present, they say that the law is like a two-edged sword. Can cut this side, they can cut the other side. So when they come, they will always find grounds for either the refusal to admit evidence or rendering the evidence useless by one reason or the other. So it is not something that we are going to overcome very soon. Vote buying will continue to be there because the politician, the average politician now believe that I can get away with it. So there's not even the arrest. Those people that are arrested, and those who were arrested even previously, who has been prosecuted? Nobody has been prosecuted. So the arrest does not mean anything. Arrest cannot deter anybody from vote buying, and it's going to be a transaction that will continue. There's no two ways about it, because there's no reason for me personally to believe that it will go away very soon. No deterrence, nothing, and there's no consequence. Even if you are caught, there's no consequence. So what are we talking about?
Does INEC really have the powers? I mean, in light of the Constitution and extant laws, including the very act setting up the Independent National Electoral Commission to prosecute electoral offenders?
You see, these are issues that have been debated over and over again. INEC has the powers. INEC is not just an umpire; it's also a regulator, and then they have powers to prosecute, even if they cannot prosecute by themselves as INEC officials. They can direct security agencies to prosecute anybody who has been seen to have committed electoral fraud. After all, the former rec, Mike Igini, was prosecuting a case of a returning officer, a professor who was seen to have compromised his position and they have done what ought not to be done. And he said, this person has to be prosecuted, and the prosecution began. So it is not as if INEC is the one that that is so much their hands are tied that they cannot do anything. No, it's just the will to go and do what should be done. And it will be difficult for you to prosecute somebody whom you worked in consonance with. It's a kind of a conspiracy. If I am an INEC official and I have colluded with someone to rig an election, and at the end of the day, how do I now go and prosecute the person? It will not be possible. You will be tantamount to prosecuting yourself.
Right. At this point, James, we're going to take a break. A whole lot to unpack in the course of this conversation. Everyone, you're watching a live broadcast of The Desk here on Global Television. We're focusing on the fallout of the gubernatorial election in Edo State. Of course, results had long been announced, but reactions have continued to trail this very pivotal electoral process. We'll back shortly. In the course of that, we'll be joined by a second guest via Zoom. Do stay with us, everyone.
The Desk on Global Television.
Nigeria, come join Anthony Mamadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are definitely.
Can we not sit back and
because
That this country gets it right.
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
is the desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Mamadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are definitely.
Can we not sit back and
because
That this country gets it right.
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
is the desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Mamadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are.
As always, as always the case, we've seen reactions from opposition, political parties, their candidates, their members. We have also seen reactions from non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, all of them lending their voices to their own assessment of this very important election in Edo State. Very soon we'll be joined by a second guest via Zoom from Ekpoma in Edo State. But in the meantime, the incumbent governor of the state, Godwin Enogagase Obaseki, has also reacted on behalf of himself, his party, and indeed the government. He has expressed his concerns about this process and what he expected should have been done in the first instance. Let's listen to Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki.
My dear good people of Edo State, in the last few months, the various political parties have embarked on very rigorous campaigns to sell their respective candidates for the office of governor to the people of Edo State, in an exercise which came to a climax yesterday. The attractive thing about democracy is the power it bestows on the people to choose who governs them. Therefore, when this power is blatantly seized from the people, it is not just a tragedy, but a travesty of democracy. Regrettably, the outcome of the September 21st governorship election appears to have daunted the spirit of many Edo people who feel powerless in the face of the brute force of the institutions that are supposed to protect them. It is therefore understandable that many people feel sad and aggrieved. But in the midst of this despair, I'm urging all my fellow Edo citizens to maintain calm and not resort to violence and the destruction of property in spite of this provocation. Peace and justice will always win at the end, and this is my prescription to all the good people of Edo State who feel vexed and violated at this time. Clearly, it is obvious to the least discerning the amount of impunity and reckless disregard for processes and law that was displayed in this gubernatorial election. In a democracy, there are always safeguards for addressing grievances, and we hope that all those affected will seek resolution for this blatant disregard of law and process. With this in mind, I implore all Edo people to go about their lawful businesses and rest assured of the commitment of our government to your well-being and security. God bless the people of Edo State. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki there reacting to the outcome of the election in Edo State. He spoke about safeguards. He also talked about how that the people must own the process. But again, you know, James, the governor, I mean, Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki had talked about how that this was do or die the other time in the course of the campaign. Some people say, well, it was the heat of the campaign that actually motivated him, that pushed him to the edge at the time. But now we seem to see more of a diplomatic, calculated, you know, sort of measured governor talking, which is contrary to what we had seen before the election. How would you interpret that?
I think, you see, elections, you know, during the campaign, people, I think he was trying to employ what may be referred to as a deterrence in terms of what he believed the opponents were, you know, working at. So, to show that, look, if you do certain things certain way, you are going to meet resistance. That's just how I see it. But the reality has unfolded, and we are is staring everybody in the face, and there is no other way he would approach it than the way he's going about it, by talking and expressing displeasure where there is need. So I think that's just what it is all about. And the election is something that would make everybody to worry. Nigerians are such that if the elections are free and fair, you see everybody will go home. Everybody will go home. You will not see anybody talking. People will not be going to court unnecessarily. Even if you think that you always get justice in the courts, people may not be going to court unnecessarily. So I believe that Nigeria, there's need for improvement in our electoral system. Some civil society groups have called for reforms, and you see, it is not about reform, really.
What was it about?
Yeah, it is about the individual elements, the human beings, the persons who operate within our electoral landscape. So if the people that head the institutions are not that credible, they cannot give you a credible outcome, no matter the kind of reform that you put in place. So we should be looking at how do we now get our elections and the persons who play roles in elections to be people that would be lovers of democracy. People who will not believe that it is what they want that should come to play, but what the individual persons that are supposed to constitute the voting population, what they want is what should be. You know, democracy is such a funny kind of system that, you know, most times people think that the majority as fools. They are people that they don't even know what they want, and then they say, okay, since the people don't know what they want, we are the one to decide for them. Since they voted this way, no, let's change the result so that the result will go this way. That is exactly what we see most times in our elections. Sometimes election riggings are not only on the election day. They start rigging election from before even the campaign started. They have started mapping out strategies, start working out ways that they are going to thwart the will of the people. And it is not healthy for democracy. It is not good. It will not lead to the survival of our democracy, because it is not about you today that you are in the ruling party. It's not about you today. Every ruling party in Nigeria in one state may be an opposition party in another state. And we see the same kind of thing playing out. And you discover that somebody who is let's take, for instance, we have like 4 political parties that are governing states in Nigeria. We have the APGA, the Labour Party, the APC, and the PDP, and the 5th one is ANPP. So each
NNPP.
NNPP, yes, NNPP. Now you discover that if we have these 5 political parties who have shared the 36 states of the federation among themselves, you discover that who is a ruling party at the center, you have your party at the state. And if you think that you are getting it at the center because your party is the one that will be favored, then what of in the states where your party is the opposition? What happens? You know, there was a time when PDP was in government, when they were at the center. They decided how election went, and that's where the issue of this do or die affair came from. It was the former president Olusegun Obasanjo that was saying that for us the election was a do or die affair, and eventually it happened that the election was being rigged, and then at the end of the day, people who are in the opposition will complain. Today, the game has changed. The PDP is in the opposition and at the center, and the APC is on the other side, on the driver's seat. So now it is the PDP that is crying and wailing, and that is how it is. Tomorrow, another political party may come to the center, and the cycle will continue. And how can democracy survive that way? It cannot.
All right, talking about survival now, of course, all the critical stakeholders need to put their hands on deck to ensure that democracy, like you say, survives. But then we have also seen a bit of an interesting element in play here. Civil society organizations don't seem to be on the same page with regards to their assessment of this election. We've seen some of them reporting in one direction, others reporting in an entirely different direction. We've seen that with NGOs, we've seen that with civil society organizations, we've seen that with, people who are otherwise supposed to be independent observers, whether local or international. What factors we blame for this kind of development?
It's the same thing, the human element. It's the human element that we're talking about. You see, people cannot go beyond the kind of personality that they are in terms of what they consider to be values. You know, what matters to people is interest, and when such interests are, something that has been captured in a certain way, it will determine how you are going to react. Some people are working to ensure that the ruling party in Edo State got the votes, yes, that were announced. Well, some other civil society were working with the opposition party in Edo State, different opposition parties, though, that at least we had 2 other opposition that were there.
James,
the Labour Party.
I need to apologize. You need to hold your thought for a second. We understand we're being joined live now from Ekpoma, what some people call the University town of Ekpoma. That's in Isan, Edo Central, in, of course, Edo State, by Dr. Jude Obasomi. He's the Chief Responsibility Officer, Jose Maria Escriva Foundation. He joins us live via Zoom tonight. Dr. Obasomi, I'd like to say a big thank you to you for taking our time to join us on the desk here on Global Television. Quickly, share your thoughts with us about this election, what happened on Saturday, the results, collation, all of the controversies from the independent standpoint of someone with sizable experience under his belt monitoring elections.
Okay, thank you very much, Uyi. Quite some time. It's a pleasure to see you after over 3, 4, 5 years. However, on the election, I played a major role as an observer under the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room, where we tried to ensure that the elections were done. The election was done in line with laid down principles. First of all, we decided to monitor the election starting from when they trying to get their nominations for the various candidates. And we saw so many things that played out in terms of buying of delegates, compelling some individuals to forget about their ambitions. And also the campaign, follow their campaign, where we now saw that most of their campaigns were not issue-based, but rather attack on their personalities, which most of the electorate felt that was not proper at all. Thereafter, we now came close to the election, and I would say that there were so many indicators or variables that we had to test to actually know whether the election was quite peaceful and conclusive. One had to do with the role of the voters. So record that INEC told us that based on that data, close to about 2 million or thereabout got their PVCs, and less than 300, about 343 individuals too could not collect theirs. And we expected that the people will actually come out to vote, but sadly enough, most of them did not come out. Too many factors have been adduced to that behavior. One, it has to do with the early downpour that morning. The record that the rain fell across Edo State. There was no local government area that there was no rainfall. And again, now some person just felt that they have lost confidence in the process. So why must they go out to vote? After all, most of them were still struggling to survive from the 2023 presidential election. Then the high level of hate speeches that evolved prior to the elections. It's on record that the state governor at the time, he went ahead to say that it was a do or die affair, so people felt bad about it. And the other parties too also said it's time to release the tigers and lions to come out. So people get scared. And again, the actual economic situation to the country too was another major determinant for people to travel home to go and cast their votes where they registered. So then they just felt that how would they spend that amount of money to travel down at the end of it, their vote will not count. So these are many more, some of the factors that actually led to their low participation at the election. Then on the election day, thank God, based on the data we generated, we got from the field because we deployed close to about 4,000 observers, partnering with other organizations to Yaga, Menima, CDD, and others. They told us that most of the polling units actually opened early enough at about 8:45. And that by 9:30, over 90% of the polling units were set to begin their work, which is a marked improvement compared to what happened in the 2023 presidential election, whereby most of the polling units did not open as early as 11 a.m. Be that as it may, we did not record a case whereby material did not arrive. So on record that we had about 98% early arrival of materials, which is, to me, or to us, a plus to INEC. Then the conduct of the security men, too, was also outstanding. Before this time, based on the show of force they exhibited on Thursday and Friday prior to the election on Saturday, people were scared. And initially, in early hours of the morning, between 8 and 10 o'clock, where people were coming out, we got that alert that the police officers and soldiers were harassing people. Immediately, that was escalated to the necessary authorities, and along the line by level we're now getting mixed another form of reaction that they have become a bit civil, which goes to show that there was actually a connection or improper networking between the various agencies. That went on record that the state we did not have any encounter or any vital crisis or terrible crisis, so to say, in terms of loss of life, like what happened in 2023, or that there was fighting here and there. But what we observed then, now, was that people actually went out to go and vote, and they tried as much as possible to be very, very safe. But however, another major component which we also monitor was vote buying, vote trading. Realized that most persons were not just interested in the process of going to vote, but rather they were interested in how they will go to the field and collect their 5,000 naira, 10,000 or 20,000 naira. The case might be based on your bargaining powers, and which was very, very sad. It's on record that in 2 LGAs, particularly George Ida Primary School in Benin City, the EFCC, based on the internal report, arrested 2 individuals who were involved in selling of votes. And also in Onwa, I think Onwa West or so, the EFCC also apprehended some individuals doing the same thing. But the issue is that if there's no demand, there won't be supply. Or rather, there's no supply, there won't be demand, particularly when it comes to vote trading. And that was a very sad experience. We just pray that those guys are prosecuted. And then after, with the election went on seamlessly, and it's on record that the BVAS machine actually worked well. From the data we got from our dashboard, over 90% of the BVAS machine worked for its purpose, that is accreditation of voters and also uploading. It's on record that by Saturday night, over I think about 78% or so of the results have already been uploaded to the high, which to us was another plus. But later in the day, some issues started evolving in terms of collation. The other party felt that the collation should be done at the local government level. Why must they come down to the state capital? That generated some issues. It's on record that some collation actually took place at the local government level, but for some LGAs, that did not take place at their LGA, rather they came down to Benin, and that generated unnecessary tension and anxiety. And I strongly believe that INEC should be able to explain to Edo people what actually transpired. Was the case of insecurity? Was the case of flood? Hello? Hello? Hello?
When someone is at the other side of the coin and you are feeling pains, you feel like your pain should be alleviated one way or the other. There is no way an election result that has already been announced can be re-announced or cancelled except there's a court pronouncement. The only time the election results could be cancelled would have been during the collation before announcement. And then if announcement has not been made and the infractions were noticed, INEC can cancel the election. But so long as a returning officer has announced a result, unless he's a returning officer like what we had in Adamawa State, where yes, the REC assumed took upon himself to take to the to announce a result. So that's the different ball game. But so long as somebody who is designated by INEC to announce result has announced it, there is nothing anybody can do about it. The next thing you can do is to go to court.
All right. Well, we can go to court on the program. Instead, we'll go on a break. When we return, it will be the final lap of the program. Do stay with us, everyone. Dr. Judah Basomi, we lost you for a second there, but hopefully you're back on with us. So I'm just going to redirect the conversation for a second. We played a video a while ago. It was a clip of the incumbent governor, Godwin Obaseki, thanking Edo people for their support and also saying that we didn't do enough in terms of how we midwifed this election in Edo State. Let's use this particular electoral process to discuss, at least from your own viewpoints, some of the errors or faults, or fault lines as they call them, that we have noticed with our electoral process beyond the conventional challenges that we have had since 1999.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for that loss of connection. That call came in. So I said, fine, not until we need to review the electoral act in such a way that we rely more on the results as uploaded on the IREV. Because now it just looks as if the IREV is more purely for formalities. Because according to other party members, they said what they computed from the IREV was far, far different from what was declared. So that's a fundamental issue that we need to address. And again, not until those who are involved in electoral malpractices are dealt with. There's no way. The Electoral Act talks about several penalties for selling of your ballot papers, of your PVC, for impersonation, for disorganizing or destroying annex materials, and so many. I think there are about 12 like that. So up to now, we only know that people are arrested. But what happened to them thereafter? So we have decided to ask some of our observers to track those people that were arrested and to see whether actually they were prosecuted. If that's not done, people will just feel that it's just normal for people to do whatever in the course of election. At the end of the day, your government will come and build them. But when they know that people are dealt with, things will definitely change. So fundamentally, there must be a review to make sure that in all elections, once the results are uploaded, that is it. But in the case whereby you upload the result and you observe that there are mutilations in the figures or in how it was computed, that will not in any way help us. And again, too, the hard work personnel that are trained, if you look at some of these results that we uploaded, you realize that you'll be ashamed, whereby you see a lot of cancellations, a lot of adjustment, and which is not proper. So are we not saying that the POs who are in the field that they could not do simple addition, or the agents, because the agents too are a critical component of this, or the agents who were there before they went ahead to sign, didn't they see it? Why didn't they go ahead to authenticate that cancellation or adjustment? So you can see where the problem lies, because most of the time, we just feel that all the work lies more with INEC. But I want to tell you this, the party agents who are on the field, who are on the polling units, have a major role to play. Because when the results leave that polling unit and they go to the next level of collation, they will see it as something that is normal, or it was done with the cooperation, so to say, of other persons. So I still believe that going forward, the party agents too should properly train to know their specific roles at the polling units, like what we observe in some polling units, permit not to mention any particular party. Some agents were even looking for who to come and buy their tags. They're not sad and shameful. A unit we went to in a local government, an agent of one of the parties said, "Oga, please, I beg, I'm agent to so and so, please. What they give to us is just an amount. And learn that you are paying your own agents a different amount. Please, I want to give you my tag so that I can be your own agent." They're not sad and shameful. Whereas the candidate will be in Benin or wherever, hoping that, yes, he has agents in the field. So I still believe that going forward, the major stakeholders have to play their major role. Not only that is done, and the law that we now say that we shall rely solely on the results as uploaded. So it's assumed that all the agents and other stakeholders at the polling units countersigned that these results were actually the true reflection of what took place at the polling unit. Without that, nothing else can happen. But trying to join words with what my colleague in the studio mentioned, that once the results are announced, that is the end of it all. But to us, we feel that that is not the end. Yes, to conclude the process, you must announce the result. Then the other party has a right, fundamental right, to say, fine, to seek a redress. That I believe that based on the data I have from the field, the result should be the other way around. It's on record in Edo State. We had a case whereby somebody was governor for quite some months, a year and 6 months, and they went to court, and at the end of it, they got victory. But for us, we are not comfortable with this slogan. When something goes wrong, we are unable to curb it immediately, but rather we say, if you are not happy, go to court. It's quite sad and shame. We just pray that the right things are properly done so we can move forward. However, let us note this. By the time we continue to justify our election, that when something goes wrong, when we do something or something goes wrong, not in our favor, we condemn the process. It is very, very wrong. However, for some of us believe that what happened in those states here, that some person felt that, fine, when we had local government election in the state, the ruling party in the state got 18 over 18. All the other parties were forced out of the state or out of the field. People could not even come out to contest. So when we do certain things that are in favor, so let us be mindful that there's a tomorrow. But however, that is not sufficient for all the going to romance what is wrong and not doing that which is right. So I believe that we must empower INEC to rely more on the results that are concluded in the high rate, because other stakeholders too at the polling unit certify that result.
I would like to say a big thank you to you, Dr. Jude Obasami, Chief Responsibility Officer, Jose Maria Escriva Foundation, who has joined us live via Zoom from Ekpoma in Edo State tonight. We hope to talk to you again regarding some of these very salient issues in the near future. So let's turn to you in the studio quickly, James, as we wrap it up now in 1 minute. You just mentioned a case in Edo State, for example, of how that a governor had been in office for a year and 6 months. Of course, that was in an evident reference to Professor Sarima Osumbo, who was removed by court, and Adams Oshiomhole was brought in on the 12th of November in 2008. But in 1 minute, how and what can we do to de-emphasize, I didn't say remove, de-emphasize the element of money on election day?
Prosecution, that's just what can be done. If you don't prosecute electoral offenders, there is no way you can stop some of these practices and manipulations. So if I were to suggest, I would say that there should be something like Electoral Offences Commission, that
like a special court,
a special commission that should be vested with the powers to prosecute electoral offenders, just as we have the EFCC that is dealing with the issue of the economic crime cases. We should have a commission like Electoral Offences Commission that should be vested with powers to arrest and prosecute electoral offenders. The members could be selected from different agencies, security agencies. It could be a combination of some people from different security agencies and paramilitary agencies, and they brought together to form the prosecution for the Art Commission, so that at the end of the day, we will be able to have something that looks like an election in this country.
Oh, something that looks like an election. So we should make progress. I think that's the point being made. James is a public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming to share with us on the desk tonight. This is where we're leaving it, but the story of Edo State is very far from ending, because the governor-elect, talking about Senator Monday Okpebholo, and his deputy-elect, again, that's Honorable Dennis Idahosa, who, well, up until this time has been a member of the House of Representatives representing Ovia Northeast and Ovia Southwest district in Edo State, will be sworn in, all else equal, on the 12th of November. By that point, nothing else matters like the need to provide very critical leadership and governance for the people of Edo State. And that's how we draw the curtains tonight on the program. You've been watching The Desk here on Global Television. I'm Muyi Agmofwebe. We'll see you again.